All right, so first off, we're going to go through what we're even trying to find when trying to evaluate rental properties. So the first thing you're going to want to do is find your cash on cash ROI and your cap rate. And then we're going to go through basically what all of that means, as well as how to find it using this Bigger Pockets Foursquare method that I just put onto a spreadsheet for you. First up, the cash on cash ROI. This is basically the entire point of the spreadsheet and the entire point of this like Foursquare method, and that's how you evaluate this property. The cash on cash ROI is used to compare this to other investments like the stock market, where you have like an ROI in the stock market, annually over the past 100 years has been about 7 or 8%. This allows you to say, oh, okay, well, if I put my money into this property right here, it's going to give me about, I don't know, a 9% return. So maybe that might be a bit better than putting $20,000 into the stock market instead. Kind of just one of those things that you use to compare your real estate investment to something that's not real estate, other investments, where you can see your return. Your cap rate, this is used to determine how this real estate investment that you're looking at compares to other real estate investments. Usually this is used more for commercial buildings or restaurants or other multifamily properties, apartment complexes, and this works perfectly fine for multifamily residential real estate or any real estate where you get an annual cash flow, because that's what you need to calculate this. The way that you find your cash on cash ROI is this right up here. I actually wrote it out for you. It's cash flow times months rented divided by the total investment. So basically your annual cash flow divided by your total investment, and that's why I kind of put this month's rented. We're going to go over like why I put that and why maybe you didn't see it on other things. Like if you went and saw the Bigger Pockets video, he doesn't necessarily put that there, but I'll kind of go through that as to why. To calculate the cap rate, I actually put it in here for you. It's the annual income divided by your purchase price. So the reason why this is kind of important, the reason why you'll see this a lot on real estate and websites, maybe LoopNet, you'll see your cap rate there right on the front page, is because that this is a pretty common way to show this property and it's compared to other properties. And the reason why that is because it doesn't take in your expenses into account. One of the biggest expenses that we're going to find in this category right here, this second square, is your mortgage and your mortgage insurance, if you have that. So basically all of your mortgage related costs, and that determines ultimately your cash on cash ROI. It's your cash flow used to determine your COC ROI. And so with the cap rate, who's to say that they finance it different than you do? They're going to have a different expense, and so that will end up being different depending on however you finance the deal or however you end up making your expenses work, because some people might use property management, some people might not, other miscellaneous stuff. Some people might pay for their tenants' water or something like that, or just whatever. And so that kind of just avoids all of that. No matter how you finance it, no matter how you make your expenses work, this is your rent you can get, or your cash flow, completely through any of these methods, compared to the purchase price that it's at. All right, let's get into how to actually use this spreadsheet to determine if something's good. I'm going to walk you through completely, A to Z, how to find the property, how to, determine if it's good or not, utilizing this spreadsheet. So first thing you want to do, literally open up Zillow or any other home searching site. I like to use Zillow because I like their UI. You're going to go into a random place. And what you're going to do, you're going to go up here, make sure that all of your filters are reset. And you're going to go up here to home type. I want to look at multifamily deals. That's the thing that I look at the most for my clients. And so that's what we're going to go ahead and only select. We're going to go to multifamily, leave everything else off. And you're going to see a bunch of dots here, on Zillow. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at just some dots. So we're going to click on one of these houses. Wow, that looks cool. 170,000. Is that good for the Midwest? Is that bad, for Tulsa? Well, luckily we have the spreadsheet here to figure it out. Wow. What you want to do is, once you find a property, hey, let's see if it's good or not. First thing, you want to take the address and we'll go to our spreadsheet and put it on in there. Personally, I like to name my files by the address. That's just a personal preference, but go ahead and put your address in the first column. Congrats, you just completed one of the hardest steps that everybody seems to take a long time to do, is finding the property. You can go ahead and make a spreadsheet for every single one of these dots on here. And that's, truth be told, I've already done that. I'm just going to redo one of the properties I've already looked at. So we're going to go ahead and look at this property. Was this one right here? And we're going to kind of see what's up. So next thing, number of units. This is actually a duplex. So we're going to go ahead and see. It says, oh, okay, it'll say it somewhere, but this is a duplex. And we're going to say, oh, there are 2 units. Okay. Purchase price of $170,000, found right there. So you want to put that in there. Mortgage down, I like to just do 20. We can play around with this here in a little bit. That it's kind of like an arbitrary thing. You're just going to put whatever you would be expecting to finance. So if an FHA loan, you'll put 3.5% down to see if it would work in this property. If you're house hacking, maybe, or you want to do 5%, whatever, we can go ahead and change that after we finish going through our investments or our calculations on this investment. All right, so our rent per unit, we want to go through and do our we want to go find our monthly income, our monthly expenses. That's going to give us our monthly cash flow, and that gives us the rest of this. And so first thing that we're going to do to find rents is we can go ahead, copy the link, pull it up in a new tab. And what we're going to do after this is go ahead and click out of here and see where this is. We're going to make sure we're going to take the draw feature on Zillow and just in this general area, because the house was right over here, actually in that block, I believe. We're going to, oh, it's this one right here. So we're going to make sure that we take about this area, a couple square miles. We're just going to hit apply, and then we're going to reset all filters. On our for sale tab, we're going to change for rent, and then we're going to use exact match on bedrooms and go to the amount of bedrooms that they have listed. And so for this is a 6-bedroom, 4-bath for the total unit. Real estate agents are horrible when it comes to multifamily properties on Zillow, because sometimes they'll only put how much one unit has for the whole property. Sometimes they'll put the total amount. In this case, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, duplex for each unit. And so we're going to go ahead and put that in on a rental as if we're looking for a rental that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Again, this is just a quick estimate that gives you quick and easy comps on this area. And so we can go see if yours has some pictures, maybe so you can see the condition of this property before walking through it, or if you've seen the property already, this will be a lot easier for you. You can go ahead and click on some of these that are for rent and look around like, okay, that doesn't have any pictures, so that doesn't really help. This has some pictures. We can look through here, determine, is this about the same condition as this? I would argue that this is a little bit nicer. Will this be the same condition that your unit is when you go to rent it after any upgrades or renovations? You're going to determine kind of what the rents are going for in the area. And this is more of just an easier way to set. There are, harder, more accurate, potentially ways to go set this, but this kind of gets you a feel of what's in the area. What's this? This is a entire house by itself to rent. I would say that this is much nicer than the property that we have here. So we're not going to use that as a comp. So 975, 850, something like that. We can't see in the side of the house, so we don't really know, but we can say, just to be safe, about somewhere in the middle. We'll go ahead and put 925 for a rent on this. All right, laundry. This is more for apartment complexes that have shared laundry spaces or mobile home parks. So we don't have any of that. It's just all in-house. So we're going to go ahead and put 0. Parking, they have a garage included. We're not charging them for parking. Again, you do that for a parking lot or what are they called? Parking buildings. Yep. Miscellaneous, that would be for any other type of way that you're getting income on the property. Then we want to do our units rented. I put this in here for the house hackers out there that really want to go ahead and see, oh, I want to live in one of the units, so we're only going to rent one. And so that's our income for the month. But we want to rent both out in this case. We can go ahead, again, change it for whatever scenario that you have. And that's going to show us our total monthly income. So we filled out square one. It'll automatically update on the right hand side, and it gives us a couple numbers here, but we're not done yet, so don't pay attention to those yet. Awesome. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. So our property tax, fastest way to find this, since we're already on Zillow, we're going to go ahead and scroll down or click this over here, price and tax history. We're going to scroll down to public tax history. If you're in Canada, it's really hard to find this. I don't think I've seen a single Canadian Zillow property that has this. But again, this is all public record. If you have a real estate agent that you're working with, or if you are a real estate agent, then you can just pull this up in the MLS and it will show you right there. And so we want to look about average price increases, maybe take that into account. So it's about $2,000, could potentially move up to $2,000 next year. We're going to do that. And then we want to find the monthly amount for taxes. So we're going to divide it by 12. So $167 right there. 167. Boom, you just found your property tax. Awesome. All right, so for the HOA, Zillow is super bad about this. They don't usually put the HOA in here. Sometimes if there is an HOA and the real estate agents know that, then it'll automatically update. I know that Coldwell Banker Select here in Tulsa, I believe automatically updates all the HOA fees, and Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and Trulia, or whatever type of site that the public wants to use. If not, go ahead and ask your real estate agent, or just go ahead and look it up if you already know what the HOA fees are in that area. But usually it's not anything if there's nothing on Zillow. Lawn, this is really up to you if you want to provide lawn care service to your tenants or not. I will not be doing that here because in this area in Tulsa, it's typical that the tenants are paying most of the utilities. And so that is why I just went ahead and filled in zeros across the board here in Tulsa. This will vary depending on where you live. So you need to at least know a little bit about your area. Go ahead and call a real estate agent or call somebody in the area that you may know to go ahead and find that out. Your mortgage is your last thing. Miscellaneous, I just want to go over that really quick. Say you wanted to pay for Wi-Fi, you're living one of the units and you are willing to put that out for the total amount of people. I would go ahead and put that in there. If you are living one of the units, take in mind and keep in mind that this total amount that you will be paying, as it might end up negative, will be excluding your utilities if you set this to 0. Anyway, just wanted to go ahead and remind you of that. So miscellaneous, that could really be anything that's just not listed here. Excuse me. I'm going to move on to mortgage. Zillow does does mortgages in-house if you want to go ahead and use them. That's why they have all of this right here. Currently, I've just been using 4% as a standard interest rate. It's better to be a little err on the safe side. Unless interest rates shoot up, then you start to use the current rate around your area. Currently here in Tulsa, you can get for less than 4, but I just use 4%. Just because it's a little easier to handle with. And again, if you can make it work for a slightly higher cost, then it'll be even better for slightly less. Or if you know exactly what your interest rate on your loan is going to be, go ahead and put that in there. So shows this 20% down, just like we have on our spreadsheet up here in B4. 20% shows us $649 a month with $0 a month in mortgage insurance, and that's because we have 20% into the property. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in there. No mortgage insurance, and we have $649 a month. Now we got the subtotal here, right, Jared? This shows us what all of the expenses so far have added up to. And the reason why we have this subtotal is to see all of our expenses before vacancy. Our vacancy expense right now, as the formula has it set, this autofills for you guys so far, is your total your subtotal divided by 12 to find 1 month's worth of your expenses. And so you will change this depending on what your vacancy is and depending on what all that is. But this just kind of shows, like, say you're in between renters and you take a month to rent the property, or say you're in between renters. Usually it doesn't take a month for you in your area, depending on what your vacancy rates are for your property. And you want to go ahead and just block a month out and repaint the entire house, or tear up all the floors and redo laminate flooring or carpet or whatever you want to do in repairs. Say you want to replace the roof once every couple of, however long you want to do that. So that's what that's for. Just so cover it for 1 month. In my case, that's always pretty safe to assume, just 1 month. You set this aside. There you go. So I did skip over a couple expenses so far. We're kind of going through this. Insurance, I have this at about 1.25% of purchase price divided by 12. That will give you about monthly insurance. I found that this is not accurate at all when you start looking at maybe much larger scale investments such as apartment complexes, or if you're looking at bigger multifamily properties over in California or more expensive markets than Tulsa. Again, this is a pretty cheap market. But for properties that are a million plus, a couple 100,000 more, then this maybe doesn't start to hold up. This will depend on whatever you get quoted by your insurance agency. You can go ahead and call an insurance agent for a quote, or maybe just ask the current owner if you want to go ahead and do that. What does insurance run around here? Go ahead and do that. But I found that this is, moderately accurate for what we have here in this area. This will be one of those things that, again, you're going to want to constantly update the spreadsheet as you go along in your process about finding more about your home. But this is one of those things that maybe once you get a quote, go ahead and put in the quote on what this is going to cost you monthly, so then that can accurately update your expenses. Over here, repairs are $100 a month and CapEx are $100 a month. So capital expenditures is what this stands for. This is for big things like replacing a roof on your property, replacing the entire HVAC system, redoing structural things every 10 years. These are for every 5+ years you're going to do something, and this is for those big things. And what is that? That's what makes that different than repairs, which is maybe in between tenants, repaint the walls, or pay to clean the entire house, or hey, my toilet just broke. What the heck? I need to call a plumber out here and replace the entire toilet. That's what you're going to use your repairs that you set aside every month to go ahead and use that for. So say every year, it's going to cost you $1,000 in repairs and just menial things. Oh, my light bulb's fucked up, let me go replace that. Whatever comes up. So that's what you're going to set that aside. And if you have extra money, I would just recommend keeping it in there, because you never know what's going to come up. You're going to set these two aside in your own personal accounts, away from all your money, away from your income, whatever you want to do, however you keep track of it, in cash, in a shoebox under your bed, however you do that. You're going to set this aside every single month. So you're not losing the money, but you're just allocating that to never touch it again, unless it's for this property. And maybe when you sell the asset, then you can go ahead and go to Vegas or something with your money. Congrats. Property management here in Tulsa and maybe some other places, I found that 10% is what property management usually goes for. And again, that's 10% of the monthly income. So property managers, again, if I'm sure you're familiar with the concept, they're just going to take care of the property for you and make it really a hands-off experience after you get tenants on in there. And so you can go ahead and just take this off and put it 0 if you will just do it yourself, or maybe you have a family member that'll do it, or if you have any other type of arrangement, you can just make that 0. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it in there for all of my calculations. I like to do property management just so when I hand this spreadsheet off, you can tailor either to your client's needs or your own, depending on what your situation is. All right, so vacancy, we went over that, all of our expenses, we just got all of that. Again, go ahead and change them to be more accurate once you find your insurance, or maybe if it's a college rental, I'd recommend putting $50 extra aside every single month, because they're college kids and it's going to be a lot more to handle, a lot more expensive usually every single year, because you got to redo a lot of stuff. But go ahead and just keep that in mind. So this gives you a pretty good estimate of what your income and what your expenses are, and to see if this is a cash flowing property or not. And so this shows you your total monthly cash flow, income minus expenses, after your after everything's done. So this is monthly, you're making $360 a month, and this is $4,300 a year. Again, this is just times 12, or this is actually times months rented. Usually this number is going to be 12. So I wanted to go over that as well as your miscellaneous really quick, in terms of why do I even have this in there? I mentioned before at the beginning that a lot of people forget or don't even really talk about this. That's because I look at a lot of college rentals, and those leases aren't 12-month leases. They're not 2-year leases. A lot of them are 10-month, maybe 11.5 sometimes, and depending on where you are, it could vary. And so that's why I put, say, maybe the leases that I do in my college rentals, they're only 10-month leases. That's gonna, occupancy rate, that's different. That you'll usually want to put that out for your thing. That's just kind of there to show you, kind of keep that in mind. That's guaranteed. It's going to be only 83%. You're going to have 2 months off. Again, you want to keep that in mind. That's going to affect your cash flow. That's going to affect your vacancy rates, or your vacancy expense that you want to do. That's going to affect pretty much everything that you want to look at. So just keep that in mind. So usually that's going to be 12. This is, again, not how much it's been rented, but how much you plan to have this rented. this occupancy rate, that's not necessarily the true occupancy rate of the unit, just how much you plan to have it rented. All right, let's move on to our last column, our cash on cash ROI and our cap rate. The entire thing that we spent all of this trying to find. Rehab budget. This will vary depending on your property. I don't know the condition of the roof. Looks fine from the pictures, but I don't know. This property just fell through on a deal today and it went back up on the market. That's why it says 39 days. It actually the seller ended up accepting an offer 3 days into listing this house. So this is going to go really fast, but I'm not sure what happened because he doesn't have a disclosure over here. But there could be something wrong with the roof. There could be something wrong with the HVAC. There could be, say there's massive foundation problems. That's going to go into your rehab budget if you even want to take this project on. And so things I noticed just while looking through here is that picture number 4 right here, the wallpaper is disgusting. It's peeling. That's super easy to take off and go ahead and just redo. It's not going to increase the price that you're going to be able to rent the unit for typically, but it's just something that's going to more of a duty to your tenants, I would say. Another thing I would personally do on the kitchen, I know this is tedious, but I'd take all the cabinets off, take all the hardware off, and resand and repaint, and then reinstall all the doors on the cabinets. That's just more of a make it look pretty nice for very cheap. If you go and see Meet Kevin's videos on YouTube, he shows you how to do that for about $300 per kitchen, for kitchens like this. Super easy, very nice. You can see the laminate here on the kitchen floor looks to be peeling along the edges, but I don't see anything in the center in terms of tons of imperfections. But again, haven't been to the property, these aren't the best pictures in the world, but it kind of gives you a feel for the condition of the property that you're in. So what is it going to cost to redo this entire kitchen? Say you have completely destroyed stairs, or your carpet is horribly disgusting or something like that. You're going to want to factor that into your rehab and kind of see what that's going to be. For me, I like to just automatically set aside $2,000 or just $1,000 per unit, because even if it's rented, I'm sure there's something that could come up when going through the process. This is again something just like your insurance. You're going to update as you walk through the property, as you tally up what's wrong, as you get inspections, as you continue with the process. This isn't just a set in stone thing like, oh, this is going to be $2,000 and that's it. It's not true. And hey, you might end up spending less. It'll be good. Going through here, this, not a very expensive rehab, just repainting the kitchen and painting this wall right here. Not very expensive, kind of going through that. All right, miscellaneous. This is more for your transaction costs. Transaction costs are the answers to all economic problems, basically, or economic questions on why you don't do this or why you do that. It's basically, you can think of it like the friction of doing business. So this might be, say I'm going to go, pay a painting company to go ahead and redo my wallpaper over here. We want to set some money aside for that. Maybe some unexpected things happened and we have to pay a little bit more for inspections, or we want better inspections, we want better services, we want other types of things. We have to pay other people for the work that they do, and so we're gonna go ahead and account for that. I like to do for about half what the rehab budget is, or about $2,000 or whatever you want to do. I always put $2,000 or $3,000 in my miscellaneous because you never know what's going to come up, and so that shows you, again, use your own discretion and your best judgment to go ahead and put those two numbers in there. All right, so we've come to our cash on cash ROI. Again, you can compare this to other investments, like putting all your money in the S&P 500. It's 2020, so there's no way you're going to get 7% return on your money. If you just do a traditional kind of fun thing, good luck. The Rona. But say over the past 100 years, again, this isn't just an investment you're going to hold for a year and then get rid of. You're going to hold this for 30 years or so. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. Average annual return, like we mentioned at the beginning, was about 7 or 8% for the stock market, and so you can kind of compare this that way. Cap rate, this is what you're going to use to compare to other properties. This number, I can't tell you if this is going to be an amazing number or not until you compare it with like properties in your area. Maybe for a restaurant that has a 4% cap rate, that's typically pretty safe or pretty good. That's your risk that you're willing to do. But just depends on your type of properties that are around and other things that you can go ahead and compare that with. You know, the cap rate, it's just like a stock market prediction. You know, you can just take it with a grain of salt. Okay, it's not going to be a 13.06 cap rate, you know, immediately. You know, in dreamland it's going to be that, but it's going to be somewhere around there. It's just something to compare this property to other properties. But if you want to compare all the money you're dumping in personally, your total investment, your cash flow, your expenses to other things, then you're going to use your cash on cash ROI. Awesome. All right, so down out here at the bottom, or depending on whatever you're using, it might be at the top on mobile. There's another tab here called summary. You see that, Jared?
Yep.
Awesome. So your summary right here, this is just like a super bare bones thing I put together for you to print off really quick and show other people. Property type, you're just going to go ahead and fill this top thing up. This is multifamily. Property subtype, we're looking at a duplex. Number of units, there's 2. That should have auto-filled from the last thing. Lot size, I always like to know this just for the, you know, things that I like to look at. You can see your square feet, your lot size, 0.27 acres. Again, square feet's up here. Lot size, you can find that on Zillow right here on the facts and features tab. And then let's see, I think my webcam might have blocked it, but there is the, you know, lot size and square feet. Or go ahead, 3,120. Is that, yeah, square feet. And then year built, I believe this is 1981. But you can just find that by scrolling up and seeing the facts and features thing just right there. Awesome. And all of this should have either auto-filled or gone through you know, its own calculations to do that. We're looking at the price. Again, that's whatever you ended up putting up here at B3, your purchase price. Price per unit, this just divides your purchase price by however many units are up here. Your cap rate should have carried over from your last page. Cash on cash ROI over here from your last page. Your gross rent multiplier, your estimated total investment from your other page, and you can kind of go through that. Gross rent multiplier, just really quick for those who don't know, is your price divided by your total annual revenue. Keep in mind that's annual. It's going to be a much different number if it's monthly. And then you can kind of just see the cash flow right here, monthly and annually. It's just going across your, your revenue, your expenses, and your annual income. And there you go. And I know these are just estimated figures. If you're printing this off and giving it to someone, maybe just put a little asterisk or something like, hey, this property or this insurance is going to be exact. This is what it's going to be. Our rehab budget, that's exactly what we're going to set aside for this project. I went and looked through the house. We're going to go through and do that. You know, that's kind of what you want to do. One thing I'm going to go through really quick is just in your mortgage down, if say you want to do an FHA loan on this and live in one of the units, house hacking over there, go ahead and go to your monthly cost tab, put in 3.5% if you're using an FHA loan. You know, keep your interest rate the same as whatever you used on the last calculation, or whatever you're looking at getting, and you're going to see that you have your mortgage insurance and your principal and interest. So I'm going to go ahead and change that over here. That was $783, and your mortgage insurance was $134 a month. We want to make sure to change your mortgage down to 3.5% up here, so that updates the rest of this. And we want to go ahead and most likely take off property management if you're living in the unit. So you can go ahead and look at that. And let's see, you're going to want to make sure, this is the most important part when you're trying to see if you want to live in the unit. You want to make sure that the units rented are only just one, or one less than whatever you put before in terms of your number of units if you're living in the property, because you're going to be living on one side. Who's to say you don't, you know, rent out the 2 other bedrooms that are in this? Again, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on each unit. Who's to say that you don't rent out the other bedrooms? But if you're just going to live in one side and rent the other side out, maybe Graham Stefan on YouTube, or Stefan does that on YouTube, just make sure to look at that. And that all of a sudden renders this cash on cash ROI figure completely obsolete. You're not looking at your rate of return anymore when you're living in this and it's negative. You're looking at how much do you have to pay every single month to live. This is your rent, so to speak. Like, how much are you paying yourself to rent your unit? This basically shows that's your break even point pretty much. Like, You know, you need 658 bucks. That's how much you need to make to pay yourself to not, you know, default on your mortgage. So, you know, some places in Tulsa, when this unit's going for 925 and that's what you're renting the other side for, the fact that you only have to pay 658 now, pretty good, you know, that's not bad. Some cases you can get it down even lower, just depending on the circumstances of maybe what your mortgage is, or, you know, whatever else. Keep in mind, when you're living in one of the units, the higher your mortgage, or the higher your mortgage down, the less expensive this mortgage cost is going to be, and the less expensive your mortgage insurance is going to be. And mortgage insurance is not the same as your property insurance. Keep that in mind. You know, so you can make this margin higher, or I guess, you know, lower margin for you to have to get into a property to pay for it. Your total investment upfront will be more expensive. This, you know, kind of goes to show. Closing costs, I did forget to mention this. Here in Tulsa, closing costs are about 3% of purchase price. Again, you're going to update that as you go through the process. That's kind of what we want to look at. Alrighty, guys, that's pretty much it. That's how you go house hack. That's, you know, how you figure all of this stuff out. Thanks for watching.